This is a story about a group of Navajo warriors in their twilight years and their confrontation with a past they could no longer ignore.
I'm looking for any common Navajo names here.
Members of America's greatest generation, these Marine Corps veterans of World War II have earned their country's highest honors in recent years for their roles in the victory over Japan. Desiring to preserve their legacy, 6 Navajo code talkers agreed to return with younger family members to major battlefields in the Pacific. The unfiltered stories of these men's memories of World War II are told on 5 different Pacific islands. The Marine Corps base in California, where they learned the code. And in later conversations, in their homes with family members. Now, in their own words, here are the personal stories of 6 Native American heroes of World War II. These elderly code talkers had serious obstacles to overcome before they agreed to travel to the other side of the world and revisit what had been for them in their youth, places of utter destruction and unspeakable carnage.
Even before we got to the island, being with my father and watching him, large quiet overcame him. And when they announced on the aircraft that we were near Mount Suribachi and you could actually see the island, he didn't want to look. He didn't want to look over there, and I asked him if he wanted to look, and he says, "I've seen it before." And there was a sad look over his face, one of I think he was remembering exactly what it was when he was feeling when he first arrived.
All it is still what it was fought for, an air base. There's nothing else. But I think my dad is still coping with it. He's still dealing with it. And I think that was a big reason why he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go back.
When I went back over there, I was looking for something. I was looking for something. How did I ever survive that bloodbath? And I came back without a scratch. And a lot of my buddies died there. And some of my buddies that I learned to really could call my own brothers. And they treated me like that. So that's the reason why I wanted to go back and see for myself.
I came to that conclusion about our religion of not going back to, as a warrior, not going back to where you fought with the enemy. And I turned that has always been on my mind ever since I came back. You don't go back. The medicine men, the spiritual advisors are the ones that says they advise against it.
And the medicine man, several of them, were saying, don't ever talk about it. Don't ever think about it. To get well. Don't ever go back where you fought the enemy. And that was why when the call for the code talkers to return to the battlefield, I wasn't ready to go. No. As I was, that I was in harmony. I'm back home, feel good among my Navajo people, among my relatives, community. And I thought that might have another problem if I go back.
I wasn't never ever going to go back, but since it was for education, then I decided that I would make the trip go back over there and see how it comes out. And since we're going to leave it behind us for the future generation.
All of these Navajo warriors went into battle with a firm purpose: to protect the ancient and sacred lands of the Navajo people, ceded to them in the American Southwest by their conquerors, the United States government.
There we are, headed for home.
Home, for some of the Navajo Nation, has not yet been fully defined.
I think the Navajo people are still here because of their adaptability to different societies that have come into our culture and our societies. And we still carry our Navajo language. We still have our ceremonies. So it's basically being very adaptable to whatever is brought before you, and you work with it. And you walk in here and you can just feel the spirituality of this canyon. This is Mother Nature at her utmost.
I hope we get our land back. This is the land back. This is our land. When Kit Carson came, he did a lot of damage to us. We like to get it back and give it to our generation, our family. And that way the land will be still here and the Navajo people will be still here in the future.
As everybody does say, it is important, and if we ever lose this place, that'll probably be the end of times, man, because Navajo people will always be here. And this is our part of the canyon, but necessarily it's everybody's part of the canyon. So as long as nobody else encroaches on this land, tries to take it away from us, starts developing, putting cities up, we don't need that here.
We were taught to respect the land, the sun, the moon. More or less we think of it as guardians, natural guardians for our existence. Land is the most important element for our existence, our survivals, and we stay pretty close to the land because that's pretty spiritual to us. Our religion is that way. He taught us to respect the nature, what it gives you, what it's going to do for you. You're making a living out of it, and you're growing your children, and your children grows up respecting our own tradition, our own custom.
inside. After high school, our tribal leaders said, it's okay, you go and join the service. You're doing this for your country. Oh, not country, he said, you're doing this for your land and your people. And with that, I understood that I will be doing it for my reservation and my family. So, okay, I'll join.
Something very important.
Well, this is really, really something.
Yeah, it's a good part of it, something that should go into it, you know.
I think it's great that we have a memorial like this.
I know how important code talkers were, how important they were to the Navajos, how important they were to the Marine Corps, how important they were to the United States. And I think that's a tradition that your young people must recognize and most of all preserve.
Today, these Marine Corps veterans who sought to protect their land from the Japanese threat in World War II are heroes to those who know the story of the Navajo code talkers. In some locations, their image is larger than life. Born in the 1920s, the Navajo code talkers grew up in extreme hardship and in extended families, listening and learning from their elders, most of whom remembered the end of their struggle against America's frontier army and the brutal long walk into captivity. Despite the Navajo people's ultimate failure to prevent the white man's takeover of their homeland, their young men were raised with pride in their legacy as warriors.
I was raised like a boot camp, and my older brothers, I see them get punished, so that taught me a lot of things, and it helped me a lot in growing up, and I always wanted to do what my older brothers did, what my dad did, but my dad kept me from doing those things. He always tell me, don't do that, it's going to get hurt. But I did them when they were not around. I guess that's another thing that took me to join the armed forces and defend my land, not country. So I don't think I'm a hero, I'm a warrior.
I come from a simple home, very culturally oriented in the Navajo way. The old stories, the methodologies of our grandparents passed on down. And it was instilled in me by my great-grandfather. And he was a disciplinarian. Gotta do what you say. You're not gonna sleep past dawn. Get up. You got a world ahead of living to live. You got to learn. My mother wouldn't stand up for me. Neither my father. Go with him. Very strict grandfather, great-great-grandfather. He lived to be 109 years old when he passed away. So what did I do? I says, Grandpa, that's for you. That's not for son. So I feel that I was already conditioned to join the Marine Corps.
Survival of the Navajo people and their way of life depended primarily on sheep, and sheep need wide open spaces for grazing. Every child in the family had responsibilities for the care of the herd.
The sheep, the animals, in particular the sheep, is the backbone of our economic survival. So ever since we came back from captivity, even before that. And being raised, walking after sheep every day, maybe taking care of the horses, maybe taking care of the cattle. You kind of treasure them in your heart because that is the prime economic survival for our people. We were kind of a nomadic people. We move for better grass, for greener grass, for water. And it's always for our animals to eat something good. We move around and also keep the land from being overgrazed. And when we make use of our animal, we eat almost everything.
Some families realized that an education for their children at one of the English language schools could help them escape the hard life on the reservation. Navajo children had two educational choices: boarding schools run by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, an arm of the federal government, or schools operated by Christian religions.
I went away to school when I was about 10 or 12, somewhere around there. I left my home and went to school because my brother came back one day and he dressed real well, clean, white shirt, and I wanted to be like him, so I went to school.
Because I didn't go to school, I have to live by the sheep, by crops, by farming up here in my land. I didn't know nothing about the outside world when I was 14. And then they put me in school in Chinle, Arizona. But the first year I didn't go because it's full already. The second year I didn't go again because the place for students are already full. And the third time I got into school. And also they don't know my name because Navajo is not written. And when I came to school, they told me, you cannot speak Navajo in classroom. You have to speak English. How in the world am I going to speak English? I don't know nothing about English.
I went to a mission school, a Methodist-oriented school for 12 years. Studied the Bible and classwork. They don't do that anymore in any school. The whole book. That's the way I was raised in school. 9 months out of the year for 12 years. There again I got caught in. But my grandfather was still living then. And so I'll go back to my elders and tell them what the school taught me in the Christianity way. See, there's two cultures I got caught in. So which do I choose? I just walked in between.
When I got sent off to high school, I've never went back home because my parents were so poor, they couldn't come pick me up. I stayed at the school all 4 years, and I worked as a sheep herder for the government during the summer. That's how come I stayed over there. Right after graduation, when we finished high school, my parents didn't come over. Some of the other people that I graduated with, their parents came, but me, I was all alone. And I thought the federal government would take me back home, but they never did. They only told me that there's a road down that way. You go down there, there's cities down there. You find jobs down there. So I just packed up my suitcase and went down the road.
When war came on December 7, 1941, the repercussions were felt even on the remote Navajo reservation, where some tribe members quickly enlisted. Every young Navajo knew the stories of their ancestors' mistreatment by the U.S. government. But this didn't seem to matter after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
The old men with white hair, gray hair, they were coming to the trading post with bow and arrows and 22 rifle. They wanted to go to war, help fight the Japs and save their land. And I had the same idea that I want to help save my land. As being a Navajo, we respect a lot about our Mother Earth. We always speak of our land as a mother. When Pearl Harbor was hit December 7, 1941, I was only 14. That's when I had that hate got into me, and I wanted to get even with the Japanese, and I wanted to join the armed forces. And by looking at movies, I decided to join the Marine Corps.
I'm supposed to be fighting for my land and my people, and I don't want to be a draft dodger. So as soon as the draft board called me, I just went over there, and they just told me, you go there and you go there, you go this way. And I found out you don't have no choice.
At the recruit depot in San Diego, the young Navajos easily handled boot camp's physical and mental challenges.
Right away, as soon as they swore us in, they say, "Attention," and I looked around and said, "Damn, you stupid Indian." We said, "Attention." Oh, I'm supposed to obey everything there. And then I found out that what was called, you're given an order. You obey the order. I found out a lot of young men didn't want to obey the orders, and they were kicked out of Marines. They get mad and fight back, and then I found out that's the way the Marine Corps works. They break you down to almost nothing and build you up to become a self-disciplined person.
The new Marines had no inkling of the special role the Corps had in mind for them. While the young Navajo recruits trained, behind the scenes at newly opened Camp Pendleton, officers experimented with the use of the Navajo language as a way of communicating on the battlefield. Creating a Navajo-based code was the idea of a minister's son who had grown up on the Navajo reservation and spoke the complex and unwritten language. When boot camp ended, the hopes of these new Marines for quick placement into battlefield units that would fight the Japs were ignored.
When I did join, finally, after 2 years trying, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to fly so I can get even with them. I passed the aptitude test after boot camp graduation. That's when they asked me if I'm a Navajo. I said, "Yes, sir." I didn't have a choice anymore.
Their destination was not to be a distant Pacific island, but rather a secret training space at Camp Pendleton.
When I went to school, they told me not to speak my own language. And when I did speak my own language, they used to punish me. 13 years later, they asked me to use my language. And I asked that question. You told me to forget it, how come you want it? And then that's the time they start saying, please, we need you. We need you for your language. Right there.
While the new Marines learned the Navajo code, along with the other traditional communication codes and equipment, the American military was beginning its island-hopping campaign in the Pacific.
The radio that I carried was light. I don't remember the model number. Was it SCX or SCY or something?
That was TBY. No,
No.
TBY, yes.
TBY is the one you crank, isn't it?
No, TBX is the one you crank.
I don't like TBX because I had to crank.
TBY, you have to strap it on your back and you carry it. 1943, sometime in August, I came to Camp Pendleton. When I came here, my language, my Navajo language, it do not have an alphabet. We cannot write down our language and we cannot read it. So, when they invented this code, they used the English alphabets. They gave a certain word to the ABCs there. And then as I looked at it and found out that they have divided all those ABCs according to the animals that live in the water, travel on the water, that flew in the air, and those animals that live on the land. So they divided into 3 parts. Take, for instance, the letter A. They gave the name to the letter A, ant. It starts with an A. And then since it's not written in Navajo, you have to know it and decode those in your head. You can't write the Navajo language. You just write it into English. B is for bear, shush. And that coded word comes in as Willachi shush. Then you decode it into English, ant and bear. And you only use the first letter of those words to spell out the message. And they used to call it ayenshi, that's bomb. And I heard that some of the, one guy that was captured on a Philippine island, he was a Navajo, and the Japanese found out that he was a Navajo, and they tried to make him interpret all this. He understood what ayenshi is, that's eggs. And so he told me, I understand that. It sounds like they're having breakfast over there, fried eggs there. And yet they ordered bombs on them there.
Navajo code talkers had developed their own language, coded language. It works so fast because the accuracy, the speed of the message and the accuracy plays a real prominent role. You know that in battle, some of you have been in battle. And when you're accurate, when you're fast and streamlined, you're saving lives.
All of the Navajo code talkers were trained, first of all as riflemen, and they put their lives on the line in every battle. They were involved in every major Pacific island landing, from Guadalcanal to Okinawa.
Don Navajoan about being tired or being pooped out or whatever, or loss of sleep or anything. The thing that you're doing is you know that you're in a heck of a situation and you could lose your life anytime. So you're on the alert all the time. When you're out here, you know that you're going to go up to the fighting area, and you know that wherever you are, you're going to get it. You're going to get some kind of shelling of some kind, or maybe a sniper is hanging in a tree close to you. So you're always kind of have that feeling that you must be safe where you are. And if you're going to walk from here to there, you're ready to dive anytime.
Being young and knowing that you're in the war, you don't feel those things. You're not sorry about being tired or anything. You're never tired, and you don't care to sleep for nights till you're given the opportunity to, usually from your partner on a radio set. He can say, go ahead, sleep a little bit. So you take turns, sleep a little bit. 30 minutes, that's enough to go another 2-3 nights. That's the way it is, being young and knowing that you're in the combat and you want to do things to save your life.
I was prepared when I left home. And every time I was assigned to certain hazardous stops or spots, I was ready for it. Your main objective is always in your mind. Sometimes you're on edge, but you adjust yourself to it. It's just like a rifle, rapid firing rifle. Gets hot, cools off, ready to go again. Even when we ran across the Death Valley, oh my goodness. When we were told to run across Death Valley, we stood in line and column. When they gave the signal to cross, I start going across there. There's a lot of boulders here and there. When I cleared that boulders, oh my goodness, I ran into a whole bunch of Marines shot down. Some of them were still laying on top of each other. And some of them even reach out and says, help. And the buddy that I was assigned with, we tried to help, and Sergeant Thomas screamed at us, you complete your mission first. So we just kept on going. Those people that are wounded there are guys waiting right now to pick them out. Those are stretcher bearers, and corpsmen are out there. You do your orders and ye get back. Most of us were just ordinary Marines or ordinary soldiers trying to do his job. What the commander wants to do, accomplish certain things, objectives, each day, each hour. And no matter how much you throw a bomb into a piece of land like Tinian or Saipan or even Iwo Jima, the ultimate thing is that the foot soldier, the guy on the ground with his rifle or every equipment that he has to carry, has to do the cleanup work, the dirty work of what goes on. War is a real dirty game.
In battle, It was up to the commanding officer to decide on his method of communication with the individual frontline units and the overall operations command post located behind the lines. In the bloody battle for Iwo Jima, the Navajo Code played a major role.
On February 23rd, in the morning, just about noontime, we were dug into the foxhole. We couldn't move forward while they were trying to ask for tank support or flamethrower support. And there's a Marines there, they had a radio there. And all of a sudden, this message started coming in. And let me repeat those words here. Nas onsen sai traji dahaljan betra depe benatnati. That's all it wrote there. So I wrote it down. Sheep's eye is cured. That's all it said in plain English. But what it really meant is Mount Suribachi is secured. See? And when I finished writing it down, the Marines in the foxhole said, "What's up, Chief?" So I just pointed up there. And they saw it. Oh, those guys just jumped right out of their foxhole and they started cheering. And Sergeant Thomas was still with us. And he just growled at us and said, "You damn knotheads. Get back into your foxhole." And they forgot some of these bullets were still flying there. And when they saw that, man, that really made the Marines really enjoy that they're winning.
If I'm up there, the signal officer will tell me to send it code, Navajo code. It's always Navajo code. They never use conventional code.
I thought it's only a little island. We'll just overrun that thing. Look at all these ships coming in, people, Marines in there. We'll just run over that little island and go on home. And I was wrong. Many people asked me if I was scared. I said, yeah, I was scared. I don't want to tell no lies or anything. I was scared, I said.
I know growing up as a young child, I listened to the stories that he told me about and the things that took place out here. And I never did realize why a lot of times he would start into it, that he'd be getting very emotional about it. And I've looked at the books that were out there. I've listened to the stories. I've heard about the carnage and the loss of life that occurred on Iwo Jima. And I can only imagine what happened. And to actually go back to this place and to actually see where it all occurred and all the things that, emotions that go with it, were immense yesterday. And as the sun started to set and we had to leave this area, it was hard for me to actually leave and remove myself from the area because of the feelings and the thoughts that were running through my mind about that. My emotions were high and my feelings were high, and I didn't want to leave yet. It felt like there was something I still needed to do there, something I still needed to see to settle my mind, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back, and I don't know how long I'm going to have my father with me, because he's getting up there in age.
Well, the island of Iwo Jima has always been just in front of me. My dad was one of the code talkers that actually went up Mount Suribachi during the battle. So I was excited about this trip. And it's unfortunate he didn't make it, because it was, I think it would have added so much more for myself. And when I started talking to some of the code talkers and listening to the stories they were telling on the beach, I kept wishing that my dad came, because the feelings that I didn't have yesterday all of a sudden just overwhelmed me.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to walk up Mount Suribachi in a peaceful time, and I'm grateful for the Marines that sacrificed their lives. But I was really grateful that there was peace, and that's what came over me when I came up to the top, is that this is peace.
It's not the land that I once saw. There's a lot of living plants on it. When I came, there was none. Nothing in bloom.
Few of the Navajo code talkers became battlefield casualties.
They said a prayer for me before going overseas, before going into service, and my grandpa that did the ceremonial for me, and I was dressed in armor because he told me that he would make me a warrior. And some things happened to me in the battle. I give him credit for it. That saved my life.
I don't communicate with my family, my mother and father, when I was in the war, except my sister. And just very often she writes to me. Seems like I'm lost away from my home, and I want to come back. What saved me was when I was in Fort Wingate in 1942, I broke 4 40-yard dashes in the state, can't be champion. So I always depend on my leg, depend on my running. Same with it, same way in the combat. I can run fast. The bullet won't catch me.
One night I dreamed about a young Indian maiden came to me and gave me something. It says, here, you wear this. You will come home to us. I dreamed about it, and one of my buddies in the patrol kicked me and woke me up. Hey, Sam, what's the matter? You got a nightmare? I woke up, and that dream was so clear in my mind, I just sat there. All of a sudden, they said, mail call. I don't get no mail from anybody. My parents, my sisters and brothers, they're uneducated. They couldn't write to me. One guy by the name of El Mertz come running back. Then he said, hey, Chief, you got a letter. You got a letter. He came over, and there's something in it. We tore open that letter, and there was a Indian made sort of a rosary from Catholic Church, made out of cedar beads and a cedar cross on it. And then I just look at it. Who would write to me? No address on it. And then, oh yeah, I'm supposed to wear this. So I reached over and put it over my neck. Just the moment I put that thing over my neck, all fear disappeared. And I kept saying, I'm going home. I'm going home.
On their return to Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Okinawa, and Iwo Jima, the elderly Marines were forced to confront on each island negative reminders of the horrific struggle for supremacy in the Pacific. But they also saw positive results in the aftermath of the bloody and deadly battles with the Japanese, results they could not have imagined from afar. While on these tiny Pacific islands, the code talkers began to share memories with family members who knew nothing about the realities of their war service. And they also took time to learn about the war from the Chamorro people.
Since there were many Native Americans and during that time of the war, why did they choose the Navajos?
The language is complex, difficult to learn. And nobody really knew in 1940, nobody really knew about the Navajo people because our land was so isolated. There were no telephones, there was no improved roads, no hospitals, very little hospitals, no church, and also very few people even understood Navajo. We have our language. Just like you people here, you have names for every plant that's here, the hills. Each one of those words were given a Navajo name, Navajo code name. And all of us that went to qualified as Navajo code talkers had to memorize the English word and the Navajo code word.
On the tiny island of Tinian, made famous by the flight of the Enola Gay to Hiroshima in 1945, the Navajo code talkers were heroic visitors.
Was done in such a hurry. A lot of parts were still not really worked out, kind of like the engines on the B-29s. And so the fusing mechanisms, they were still working on them the last week before they dropped the bomb.
The indigenous Chamorro people saw them as warriors from a native culture, like their own, who had saved them from their Japanese masters. And they also saved their land, their language, and their culture.
Of our body.
So you spelled the words out?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like the I for an E, an I would be used. An ear, you take the first letter of each word.
That was really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And stay in school and get an education and learn to talk Navajo, okay?
Future Marines.
On the Japanese island province of Okinawa, site of the world's final great land battle, the Navajo code talkers were introduced to a conquered native people, a people also in danger of losing its culture and its language.
Now, the destruction of Shiri Castle. Shiri Castle has been abandoned by the Japanese Army 32nd Army headquarters. It's really not being used by anybody at this particular point. For some unknown reason, the Navy is told to take Shiri Castle apart. But it took 2 U.S. battleships setting off the shore right over here 3 full days to destroy the castle setting here. What Shiri Castle means to the Okinawan people is it shows their independence as a country and a nation, not Japanese. That's the only reason they rebuilt it.
Hakone means goodbye and thank you.
ありがとうございます。Japanese say ありがとうございます。
Arigato gozaimasu.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Our language is not a written, only a spoken language.
Is it the color?
だから
Our skin color and their skin color is very similar.
Almost the same.
It's almost the same.
In the weeks following their return home, the code talkers and their families gathered to discuss their experiences.
Traveling to Guam, Tinian, Saipan, and Iwo Jima, and Okinawa, there were a lot of things that I didn't know. One of those was that how the indigenous people of those islands had survived and the things that they had to go through as a people, and to be able to attempt to preserve their culture and to preserve their land. And I have a lot more respect for the Chamorro, and I didn't know that there was native Okinawan culture and language, and that even though I had spent a year there when I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't take the time to learn about that.
This is the traditional music they played for the king of the Ryukyus.
I've noticed a big change. My dad talks a lot, and you know, I think it kind of allowed him to be able to express himself about that. I think that it was something that he might have been holding in for a long time. So I was glad for that. And Snuffy, I mean, Michael, AKA. He and I talk a lot more, and I was really glad when every time he came back from his trips, he would bring stuff over and share it with me and tell me about it. And he was really enthusiastic about it, and it's brought us closer together.
Since my dad went over and came back, I think that he has really changed. He, like my sister and brother said, he talks about his experiences more, and I think he has more respect for himself than he did before as a code talker. And it shows in the way he carries himself and participates in a lot more of the code talker events. But there is a big difference in my dad, and you can see it in his face. He's not so stressed out as he used to look before. He seems to have calmed down a lot more.
I'm very into sports. Even during the summer, I play a lot of softball, and I noticed he comes out of his way to come watch me play more, and he does talk about things without me having to ask, just about anything. So he's more open with everything and more grateful for his family, I feel like, because he's more involved than he used to be.
The difficult journey of the Navajo code talkers into wartime memories had an outcome they and their family members could not have anticipated.
During the war, you have nothing but the white rock, just like this. I was captured here. Yeah, this one. And that time, you have nothing but the stones and pieces of bodies. It's a big difference.
It's very interesting to know because we are ignorant of the country that we invaded and conquered, And we don't know the culture of the people, where they came from, what they do, why they exist, things like this. We don't know that. We just do our job. That's all.
Doing their job included retaking Japanese-held islands from fanatical troops trying to stop the American advance toward the Japanese homeland.
This is the beach that in Round Agate that confronted the Japanese army.
It's very emotional for me to set my feet on this ground. I feel that this was where my husband was back in World War II. But lucky you're back. You saved our country, you saved this island for the native that were here. And it was your land, which today we're living a free world.
Firmly, I believe it's very positive for me. It gives me a feeling that's good to see so much progress being made on this island. At the time that I was here, 60-some years ago, all the devastation that I observed has changed tremendously. So it makes me feel good to be here today.
It's something that I'm gonna treasure deep down my heart till the day I die. It was a touching moment for me. I didn't go there for a vacation, or I didn't go there just to go sightseeing. I went there for a reason. I felt the pain that my husband felt when he walked up to the shore. And I'm glad I seen the place. And upon return, it made me felt different. And I can feel Sam's whole life has changed. Like the burden, the barriers that he talked about, it's not mentioned to me quite often like he did before. So I know that it was a healing process.
It's all smoothed out. Grass start growing back on it. Flowers waving back and forth. Trees there. That really helped me erase all the terrible things that had happened there. From then on, I don't have no nightmares anymore.
You see a lot of your friends, your buddies, your comrades being wiped out. And you see the land, how devastated it has become. And you leave it that way. You go home. So that stays in your mind, that picture of the situation. That's always something that you will remember. They say that your spiritual ceremonials will cure that, and I've had that, but it still hangs on somewhere in my mind until I went back over there and see what the country looks like, see how the people are happy, they're at peace, they're enjoying their freedom. They make their own decision. They're going to school. The kids are happy. You know, just a situation where it's everybody is living in harmony with each other.
Thank you tomorrow for the opportunity that you have given us, especially our students, in learning more about the world that we live in. It is very important that they know, especially your role in World War II, that makes the peace throughout the world. And since that time, we have not had any World War again. We, from our bottom of our heart, thank you very much.
So it makes me feel good that they are saying thank you for what we did, and I'm a little more prouder to hear them than getting the congressional. Congressional don't mean nothing to me, but it's the people that show their appreciation and thanking you that makes a lot of difference.
After the trip, he seemed to calm down quite a bit, and the feeling that I used to get from him was a feeling of desperation, and there was a great calming effect, and he wasn't fidgety all the time anymore. I think he's enjoying life more, and one of the main factors for that, I believe, is his Purple Heart presentation. And I think that kind of put a seal over the bottle for him and made him feel complete.
And the second trip, my son went with me, and I think she feels the same thing there. But this time, the people there were really appreciative of our participation in that war there, because the native people there, it seemed like they almost worshipped us there, and they showed and every day that we were the Navajo code talkers that helped there. Before that, I never really realized what was happening, because I didn't even know whether I was coming or going. I just took orders and took part in it, but the value of doing that I never knew until I get back.
Our great-grandchild wanted to take his little teddy bear. Take it with you, Grandpa. Since I can't go, you have this guy go in my place. You carry it in your purse, Grandma. So we won't let him touch the soil in Saipan and Tinian. Take him back. This is the way I feel. I think that people should carry these messages back to their families and their schools and wherever they are.
He's not like he was before he went back over there. He was always move military style, but he's more at peace, I think.
Again, it's up to our own people, the young people, to carry that legacy down the road for generations to come, and learn their tradition, learn their cultural traditions, customary practices, learn the resources of the Navajo Nation, simply because all of that was involved in developing this code.
You know, one thing that's really overlooked is the impact of the code talkers after the code was declassified in 1968. In 1968, there was only one school on the Navajo reservation trying hard to teach Navajo history and culture in that school, and that was Rough Rock Demonstration School. And it was struggling as a school teaching Navajo history, language, and culture. When the code was declassified, that was the engine that was necessary to help promulgate the teaching of Navajo language, culture, and history on the schools and the reservation. It wasn't too long after that Navajo history, language, and culture was required in Navajo schools on the reservation. And that, I think, is their greatest contribution.
アメリカエンジニアの言葉、暗号のために使いました。はい。戦争のために。ナバホ。
Thank you. Thank you. Let's, we pray the world peace. Yes.
Why did I join and help fight the war? And I found out my land and my people. I found out my land was the whole United States. My people were all citizens of the United States. That was my people. And if he asks me, will I do it again? I will do it again.